a perspective on geopolitics, geoeconomics, oil, and war.
Panic as hypersonic missile fired from Yemen.
वर्षों तक वन में घूम घूम बाधा विघ्नों को चूम चूम सह धूप घाम पानी पत्थर पांडव आए कुछ और निखर सौभाग्य न सब सोता है देखें आगे क्या होता है.
The Iraq War 2003 to 2011.
Supplies. What happens then? Prices shoot up dramatically by as much as $13 per barrel according to some estimates. Each time the price of a barrel rises by $10, inflation in India spikes by 0.3%.
समाज की ले न सका उल्टे हरी को बांध दे चला जो था असाध साधने चला जब नाश मनुज पर छाता है पहले विवेक मर जाता है हरि ने भीषण हुंकार किया अपना स्वरूप विस्तार किया डगमग डगमग दिग्गज डोले वान कुपित होकर.
Why did the US go to war in Iraq?
In the early stages of military operations.
Growing up, the narrative was always oil. So it was like we went to Iraq to get oil, like America always does.
We might find ourselves without adequate supplies of energy in the future.
All major oil fields in the south are now under coalition control.
Amid concerns over smuggled Iranian oil marketing companies in Pakistan are expanding their retail outlets.
This is absolutely shocking. The distance between Yemen and Israel is almost more than 2,000 kilometers.
And Bush is like, ugh, here we go again. Half of Iraq's people live either way up here, where they don't like Saddam, they're Kurds, they've been brutalized by Saddam, they do not like him, or they live way down here in the south, which is right near the border of our good friend Kuwait. We could easily come into Iraq and take both of these big population centers. Oh, and in doing so, says Paul Wolfowitz, we could naturally take the major oil fields in Iraq.
If I were in those shoes, I'd be thinking about other alternatives than striking oil fields.
While PSO discussed various economic factors, it did not address the rising smuggling of fuel from Iran, which is impacting sales.
The debate about the war against Iraq has divided many along the political spectrum.
Real concern about this Russian war.
And Bush just kept saying weapons of mass destruction over and over again.
Right.
He learned that short phrase.
Very dangerous weapons of mass destruction into this country.
Saddam Hussein will continue to increase his capacity to wage biological and chemical warfare and will keep trying to develop nuclear weapons.
Senate Joint Resolution 45 to authorize the use of United States armed forces against Iraq.
He has said he wants the power to be able to go to war. It seems completely consistent with that request that we say, yes, Mr. President, you have that power to go to war.
This resolution gives the President the authority he needs to confront the threat posed by Iraq.
Saddam Hussein and his sons must leave Iraq within 48 hours.
Shell Pakistan Limited highlighted the daily influx of 4,000 tons of smuggled fuel, threatening industry stability and government revenue.
The US did when they took over Baghdad was they dissolved the huge Iraqi military. They just said, no, we don't want you anymore, all of you commanders and leaders, soldiers, you're out. We're going to start fresh. Have a bunch of ex-Iraqi army members who are angry at the United States and unemployed. Oh, and all of them have extensive military experience.
There is a large number of former Iraqi soldiers that are unemployed now. That is a huge concern.
It is just painful. What a terrible decision. So these guys run off and they start to join the growing number of rebel groups that are there cropping up to oppose the United States presence. One of those groups is called Al-Qaeda in Iraq, which later turns into the Islamic State of Iraq, which eventually becomes the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, or ISIS, a well-oiled governmental and military organization run by many of the military leaders who were ousted by the Americans from the Iraqi military when they took over Baghdad.
Then how can we say that these missiles were supplied to Houthi rebels by Russia?
AI-generated answers. Oil prices can be a sign of an economic downturn, but they can also be affected by other factors. Recessionary indicators. Oil prices can be a sign of a recession, as they were in the periods leading up to the financial crisis in 2007 to 2008 and the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020.
However, other factors can also affect oil prices, such as supply and demand. Easing energy shock. A drop in oil prices can indicate that an energy shock is easing, which could help policymakers reduce interest rates. This could help advanced economies that are struggling with high borrowing costs. Geopolitical tensions. Geopolitical tensions can also affect oil prices. For example, the Russia-Ukraine conflict and the Middle East conflict have both contributed to elevated oil prices. Oil and global trade. Oil and gas are a vital part of global trade and the development of countries. Changes in oil prices can impact the prices of byproducts like cooking oils, petrol, diesel, and paints.
Hi, I'm Krishna. Please like, share, subscribe, and follow INTP Thoughts on YouTube and Instagram.